folks, Scott here with a new 10-card, 1-kit video featuring the new My Monthly Hero April 2021 kit. Let's see what's in our kit real quick. And this is our 6x8-inch stamp set featuring mostly these solid stamps. We've got a dog and a bird and a fish and a butterfly, a fox, a cat, a bunny, a dragonfly. We've got flowers, looks like a little egg here. All sorts of sentiments here to combine and create your own here. I miss having you around. I'm so grateful you amaze me. Hello, cutie, happy birthday. These have little bitty shadows on them. Looks like really nice stamps. That's our 6x8-inch stamp set. And of course, we do get matching dies. That's 16 coordinating frame cuts for all of our stamps. And we've got a big goodie bag this month with all sorts of great stuff inside. I think this kit is really kind of all about these stencils. Let's get to those in a minute. We get some ink cubes, some Hero Arts ink cubes. We've got in tangerine, raspberry jam, and grape juice. Some great colors there. We also get a new Hero Arts ink blending brush. This is really a nice brush. It seems Hero Arts has gotten into the blending brush craze, and this is really nice. Those bristles are packed in there so tightly. That should be a great blending brush to work with. And then here's our stencils. Let's clear things up for a bit. We get 3 rotating geometric stencils. Here's a line art one. These are like quarter circles, and this one here is assorted shapes. Now, theoretically, all of these will work together with each other, layering stencils. They've got little extra squares in the corners for lining things up. You could use all 3 of these together. These have also been designed to use them as rotating stencils. So you can stencil this and then rotate it and stencil it again for yet another pattern. The quarter circles here, if you rotate that a turn, then you'll get half circles on a number of places. And of course, this one has our assorted graphic shapes. This is fun with the little quarter circle stencil because you can see that it adds that little quarter circle on the corners of those corners. On our backing card is some examples of that. You can see those quarter circles. This looks like all 3 stencils all together, this little pattern here. On the back here, this looks like, this is interesting. I wonder how this one comes about. I am definitely going to have to, so if you do that, I don't know. This is interesting. I'm not quite sure how they get this nice square-ish pattern. I'll have to play with that, see if I can replicate that maybe. Stencils are great. I love all of my stencils. These look like they'll be great fun to play with, along with these great graphic animal shapes and designs, and a new Hero Arts blending brush. Well, let's see what this inspires from me for this month. So naturally, I wanted to see what was up with our rotating geometric stencils this month. So I thought I'd make some backgrounds using these stencils. Now, a lot of people are using the pixie spray these days on the back of their stencils. I don't have any pixie spray, but I do love it when a stencil will stick down to paper. So I actually use a Zig 2-way glue pen. Now this, of course, if you let this glue dry, it will be sticky. This is sticky, nice and sticky on the back. I just cover the back of my stencils with that. You can kind of see the glue on the back of that, but I did go through and I did use some Zig 2-way glue on the back of all my stencils. You, of course, let that dry completely. You might, press that up against your t-shirt or something to take a little of the sticky away because it's pretty sticky. But if you're careful with it and don't press it too hard on your paper, it actually works quite well. Just press the sticky side down onto your paper and it sticks quite well, will stay quite well. You can actually wash your stencils, peels up very nicely, especially after you've done it a few times. This will actually hold up to a number of washings. I think this is a lot cheaper than the Pixie spray. It works very well for me. So for my first background, I went with the straight line dies. Now for all of these, I'm going to do one stencil in one color, turn it 90 degrees, and do the second stencil in a second color. So our first one here, I first used some lemon drop ink, so that's the yellow, and then I used the tangerine, the orange ink that is in this kit for the rotation. I love that. That's a beautiful stencil. All of these pages are 6.5 by 6.5. I just wanted to give myself a little extra room there. That's the straight line stencil, once and rotated. Here's that quarter circle stencil. I love this one. Oh, baby. These are inked using the raspberry jam and the grape juice inks in our kit. Those two went really nicely together. I really like that one. You could cut this apart and use different pieces. That's one of my favorites. And then this is that crazy shapes geometric stencil. I stenciled this first using splash ink. Then I rotated it a quarter turn and I ink blended through the stencil with some blue Hawaii ink. I swear that belongs there. There it goes. And then both together, looks like that. Really interesting pattern on that. And of course, they also said that these stencils could all be used together. In fact, one side of our backing sheet for our kit has what I believe all three of those stencils together. So I wanted to give that a try. This is what I came up with. I really like this. So I started with lemon drop ink and did the quarter circle in my lemon drop ink. Then I went to splash ink and I did splash ink as my second stencil using the multiple shape geometric. And then I went in with fruit punch to do the straight line stencil on top of that. I did make sure to stencil all of these very lightly. I didn't go heavy-handed with that, and it came out really nice. I think my favorite bits are where the blue and the yellow overlap and they make just the perfect green. I didn't get quite the same red and blue makes purple. It's a little bit different, but that lemon drop and splash made the perfect green. So you've got a lot of green on this. This is all three of the stencils all together. A really great fun set of stencils. Very pleased with those. Let's make some cards. And here we go with my 10 cards, mostly white card bases, but looks like there's a purple card right there on the front. I was really taken by that raspberry red and grape juice quarter circle stencil pattern I made. So that's where I started with my first card, and we have a You Amaze Me card. Now, I divided my stenciled pattern paper right down the middle and used the left half of that for my card. I really like that quarter round stencil. Since none of the patterns overlap, it gives you lots and lots of different trimming options. So I glued that panel to the front of a dark purple card base from my stash, and I trimmed the edges with some Love from Lizzie. These are purple mirror peel-offs just on the edges there. I stamped the bird and the tiny egg on a scrap of white cardstock using the raspberry jam ink and touches of the grape juice ink for a little shading on the bottom. And then I die cut them both out using the matching dies. I stamped the sentiment with the grape juice ink and embossed that with some clear embossing powder for a little shine and dimension there. I trimmed the sentiment to size. I cut a 2-inch circle from my Hero Arts nesting circle dies, and I glued that circle directly to the card front. I added the bird, the egg, and the sentiment using foam tape, and I added a tiny little drop of Nuvo drops. That's ebony black Nuvo drops in the eye of our bird. I think that brings a lot of life to these otherwise block solid stamps. And finally, I rounded the corners on the right side with my corner chomper. Really fun card. And trust me, if you can lay an egg, you're pretty amazing as far as I'm concerned. You amaze me. So I'm always tempted to stamp solid stamps in black for a silhouette effect, and that always works. There was one stamp here that begged to be stamped in black. For my next card, we've got, "Thank you, you're a solid friend," with our black cat on the side here. Now I trimmed down my straight lines stenciled pattern to 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I added a thin black mat to that and then glued that down to my white card base. I stamped the cat and the sentiments using Hero Art's Intense Black ink, and I embossed the sentiment for a little extra shine. There you go, you can see that there. I die cut the cat and trimmed down the sentiment and added both to the card front with foam tape. I also, again, added a little black Nouveau drop to the eye of the cat. Just a little dot of shiny black there, and they come to life. It looks even better in real life. Thank you. You're a solid friend. That solid stamp works very well with that solid sentiment. Obviously, I think Hero Arts is trying to make a little pun there. So I was trying to figure out how they made this pattern that is on the backer card for this kit. And this is what I've come up with. So this is the multi-shape geometric. The light blue was done this way. I turned the stencil a 1/4 turn and did the dark blue here. So that's what you get with the multi-shape geometric stencil turned 1 degree. So now I've cut this apart. And now I think we just turn everything 180 degrees. And that gives us that pattern. There it is. So that's the pattern on the center of our paper here. So on our pattern paper here, we actually have one stencil here, we have one stencil here, we have one stencil here, and we have one stencil here. So this is actually 4 repeated stencils all put together that makes that nice square box in the center. Whew, that took a while to figure out, but it makes me feel really good that I did. So that rounded square in the center of that pattern was certainly begging to be used as a square card. So I taped the 4 quarters of my stenciled pattern together in the new arrangement and die cut the center of the pattern with a 4-inch square infinity die for, just here to say, hello, cutie. That's my die cut of the center of that pattern paper. Here's the outside edges of that. So I just took a little 4-inch square nesting die and cut that from the center of that stenciled paper, glued that down to a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch card. Now, I love square cards of this size because you can send them in a normal A2 envelope with no extra postage or anything. Now I stamped and reverse stamped the little fish here using Hero Hue's creamsicle reactive ink and a little bit of the tangerine ink on the bottom for a touch of shading. I'll put a little link up there to show you my reverse stamping technique if you need to see that. I stamped the sentiments using the tangerine ink and I embossed both with clear embossing powder, plenty of shine there. I trimmed down the large sentiment, die cut the fish with the frame cuts, and die cut the smaller sentiment using a Lawn Fawn Everyday Banners die. I mounted all of the pieces to the card front with foam tape, added some blue droplets. Those are from the My Monthly Hero March of 2019 kit. I added those to the background and some small orange glitter enamel dots for the eyes on the fish, bringing them right to life, giving them a little glitter, shine, and dimension. I love this card. A really delightful hello card. Love that blue and orange together. Just here to say, hello, cutie. So I have my combined stencil backgrounds still to use. I did this really lightly with those soft, springy colors. So for our 4th card here, we've got I'm glad you're in my circle. This all works so nicely together. I die cut my stenciled pattern with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and I added a thin mat of Hero Hue's Mist cardstock and glued those down to my white card base. I stamped the sentiment using Fruit Punch reactive ink and embossed that with some clear embossing powder. And I die cut it with another Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I die cut another 2-inch circle from white cardstock, and I added thin mats of mist cardstock behind both of that and the sentiment. I stamped the dragonflies. I really like those dragonfly stamps with lemon drop ink and splash ink, and then I used a brown Tombow marker directly on the stamp to color the bodies. I am using my Hero Arts Misty to do all of my stamping, and that really helps get a nice solid body by just drawing on your stamp with your watercolor markers. I glued the matted circle flat to the card front and added the dragonflies and the sentiment with foam tape. I found some tiny little copper gems in my stash. It's from an old Love from Lizzie kit. I still have bunches of them, and they fit on the ends of their antenna just beautifully. So I added them to the dragonfly antenna for a little pop of sparkle, and I'm loving this card. So soft and springy. I'm glad you're in my circle. Okay, that used all of my 4 preview stencil patterns, but we have lots and lots of stamps to go. This one makes me giggle. On a white card base, we've got I'm so grateful for you, with our little doggy looking longingly at that tree in the background. Now, I stamped the dog using Hero Arts Sandstone ink and Cup of Joe ink for a little shading on the bottom, and I stamped the tree with Key Lime Fizz and Green Apple reactive inks, and then used my Tombow marker to color the tree trunk portion of that stamp. I then die cut both of them with their matching frame cut dies. I freehand cut this circle from a piece of Kiwi cardstock, Hero Hues Kiwi cardstock, and ink blended a little splash ink right behind the curve there for a little suggestion of a sky in the background. I stamped the sentiment on the card base with Key Lime Fizz reactive ink and embossed it with some clear embossing powder. Nice shine on that. There you go. I glued the hill flat to the card base and added the dog and the tree using foam tape. I just had to add this little heart stamped in Fruit Punch reactive ink to show our little doggie's appreciation, and I added a little sparkle to that with my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. Another mini copper gem fit in the dog's eye to bring him right to life, and though this isn't a pun, I do think it's a great lighthearted joke. I am so grateful for you. So the black cat got me to thinking about the possibilities of stamping some of these characters in white. So for our 6th card here, we've got I Miss Having You Around, featuring our fox and that bunny. I really love that little bunny stamp too. I stamped the fox and the bunny multiple times on some Hero Hues pitch black cardstock using unicorn white pigment ink, and I die cut them both out with their matching dies. I also die cut 3 more blanks of both the fox and the bunny and glued those all together for a nice chunky chipboard piece for both of them. I trimmed the other half of my quarter circles stenciled pattern to 5 1/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches, and I glued that to a thin black mat and then down to a white card base. I glued a strip of Basil 40-pound vellum over this bottom row of pattern here. This is about 5/8 inches wide, and I used my Xyron sticker maker to put glue on the back of that and glued that over the bottom there just to give the suggestion of a ground. I didn't want to completely obliterate the pattern, but I did want to change it a little bit and make it look like our animals were standing on something. And then I lined the top of that vellum with a thin purple mirror peel off to give a little distinction to that line. I glued the animals on top of that. I stamped the sentiment on more pitch black cardstock using Hero Arts embossing and watermark ink and embossed that with some white embossing powder. I die cut that and 3 more blanks using a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, glued those all together and glued that to my card front. Again, I added little black Nuvo drops to the eyes of both of our animals here. I guess it truly has been an unprecedented year if these two mortal enemies, I do believe foxes eat rabbits, I think it has a lot to say for these two guys to be missing each other too. I miss having you around. So I haven't used any of the flower stamps yet, so I came up with this idea to make a simple one-layer card using all those flower stamps, and we have a happy birthday card. I just love this so much. So using some simple masking, I stamped all of our flowers in this fun arrangement using Lemon Drop, Key Lime Fizz, Splash, and Fruit Punch reactive inks. I stamped the sentiment with the grape juice ink in the kit and embossed that with some clear embossing powder. I stamped the two asterisks with creamsicle reactive ink and the star with Lemon Drop ink, and I also added a little clear embossing to the star as well. Once I had successfully stamped everything, I die cut this panel with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, added thin mats of dark purple, white, and light purple, and then glued those down to my white card front. I dug through my stash of crystals and enamel dots and found a little sparkle for each one of the elements on this card. These are glitter enamel dots on these two flowers. These are some gems that match just perfectly, and of course more glitter enamel dots, lots of sparkle and shine pick up on this card. Now, to tell the truth, it took me 4 tries to get this all stamped correctly. I was working on this card after a day of being back to work. Yes, I am back to work part-time, but oh, so welcome. And I was possibly not as focused as I should have been. I did do a trial run of this arrangement. It's just black ink on some graph paper, so I knew where everything was supposed to go, but I kept messing up my masking, and I had to consciously remind myself to put on the masking, stamp the stamp, remove the masking, then stamp it on the card. I do think the effort was worth it, as I am completely in love with this card. I think the graphic suggestion of a little birthday cake goes along perfectly with the theme of this kit. Happy birthday! Now, if you followed me for any length of time, you probably know that I'm not a huge fan of butterflies. But I have to admit that the butterfly stamps in this kit were really quite unique. I thought they were a little bit more bug-like than beautiful butterfly-like. So for our next card here, we've got You Still Give Me Butterflies, featuring 5 different colored butterfly bugs on the front of this card. So I stamped that butterfly stamp in 2 tones using creamsicle and lemon drop, fruit punch and taffy, key lime fizz and green apple, thistle and grape slush, and Splash and Blue Hawaii reactive inks. I also used my Tombow marker again to color the bodies on all those stamps and stamp those bodies in brown. I die cut them all with their matching frame cut dies. I printed this perfectly appropriate sentiment directly on the white card base using my Silhouette software and the Kelowna MT font. I thought that was a fairly close match to the font used in this stamp set and works really well for this card. I printed that in purple. I will, of course, have links to these fonts and that software on my website at cardcutups.com. Now, I trimmed the leftover bit of my 3 stencil pattern down to 1 3/4 inches by 5.5 inches and glued that to the left side of the card base. I did run a little clear glitter peel off down the edge of that. You can see that right there on the edge of that pattern paper. I attached all the butterflies to the card front using foam tape and added an assortment of clear sequins and clear crystals for some extra special sparkle. The crystals are on top of the little colored dots, so those clear crystals show up as the color underneath them. Lots of sparkle on this. This is really a fun Valentine or a great anniversary card for anyone in a long-term relationship. you still give me butterflies. And these definitely look more like something that would be fluttering around in your belly than would be flitting from flower to flower. You still give me butterflies. I have now used every stamp in our stamp set, every sentiment, every little flower stamp, every stamp in my stamp set. You know that is always my goal, and I do try to resist adding my own spin on things until I've covered all the bases. Now, though I really love the dragonfly and the bunny stamp, I thought the fox stamp offered a little bit more flexibility than the others. So for my next card, we have The Old Fox Understands the Trap. Happy birthday! You can always make fun of a person's age on their birthday, but it does become more relevant as I get older and older and older. And though this card is poking gentle fun at your age, it's also kind of a compliment, acknowledging that with age comes wisdom. Well, I hope so. The old fox understands the trap. Happy birthday! I stamped the fox on a scrap of white cardstock using some Stampin' Up! Calypso Coral ink. That was the best reddish-orange dye ink I have in my stash. And I decided to add some details to him with my white Jelly Roll pens and a Pigma Micron black pen. It was pretty easy to add just smallish touches of realism to this solid stamp. I like him quite a lot. I think he came out just beautifully. I was inspired to create this background simply by the fact that I had all of these thin strips of cardstock collecting on my desk from all of the masks that I had been cutting on the previous cards. So I decided to color them up with some ink. This is, of course, the grape slush reactive ink and the green apple reactive ink. I just colored those strips, trimmed them down, placed them all together on a piece of tape, and made a nice little background for that. I did go in and add some Sukaniko sheer shimmer spray to that to give a little sparkle to that background. I think that's fun, kind of a graphical representation of a forest. I printed the sentiment directly on the card base. That's the same font as the butterfly card, but in black. I printed that on the card front and glued the background piece in place in the center, and then finally added my fox with a little bit of foam tape on that. And that makes our for older people only birthday card. The Old Fox Understands the Trap. Happy birthday! So, are you jonesing for a pun? I am jonesing for a pun. I looked all over for a good pun that would be appropriate with this kit. Finally, thanks to Joel, my better half, and I, we came up with this great fun card for the last card in our collection this month. We've got Long Time No See. When are we getting together? Oh, this one does make me laugh out loud. And actually, it's perfectly attuned to our life and times at the moment. I love this super long dachshund. When I realized that I could take this dog stamp and make it as long as I wanted simply by stamping the front half and then scooting over and stamping the back half and then collecting those straight lines, I was thrilled. It is a straight line from his head to his tail, top and bottom. So I stamped the front half of the dog on the left side of a white panel, and then stamped the right half of the dog on the right side of a white panel, and then I used some Post-it tape to just mask off from his butt to his neck, from his legs to his legs, and filled in the center of that with more ink. He is all stamped up with Hero Art Sandstone and Cup of Joe ink, and I also went in there with some of my golden brown alcohol markers to try and fill him in, even him out. He came out really good. It was actually easy to also do some partial die cutting and partially die cut his front half, partially die cut his rear half, and then connect those cut lines using my craft knife. I tell you, I did holler with joy when I got this fellow cut out. Now, I cut our two little stenciled pattern different pieces from a drop shadow experiment I was trying. I stenciled 2 layers of the quarter circle stencil on some craft cardstock using Hero Art's white unicorn pigment ink. I let that dry thoroughly, and then I stenciled over that again using Splash and Blue Hawaii inks and offsetting the stencil just a little bit. That gives us some really interesting dimension. Almost looks like it's embossed, but it didn't give me quite as much punch as I thought it would, but it did give me some extra pieces to use to add some color and pattern to this card. I added some thin mats of black behind both of those strips and trimmed them both down to 5.5 inches long. Now, I printed the sentiment on the card front. This one is using the Brady Bunch remastered font, one of my favorite fonts for funny cards, Wienery getting together. And then I glued our 2 matted pattern strips to the top and bottom, and I added our wiener dog with some foam tape, another dot of Nuvo drops for the eye on our wiener dog, and he comes right to life. I honestly believe I have never heard this pun before. And it's almost a double pun too. Long time no see, and he's looking at his tail that's a long way away. Oh, this card gives me great joy. I hope you like it too. Long time no see. When are we getting together? So that's my 10 cards inspired by the My Monthly Hero April 2021 kit. It's a really amusing batch of very colorful cards. I really like these. I did, of course, use every stamp in the stamp set. I used all of the stencils, all of the ink cubes, and what we have here, a couple of birthday cards and thank you cards, lots of friendship cards and missing you cards, and even a nice Valentine/anniversary card. Not too bad. This is quite a unique set from Hero Arts this month, and I'm always thrilled to get a chance to work with something new and different whenever the opportunity presents itself. I hope you like this collection. Let me know which cards are your favorite. As of posting, this kit is still available at Hero Arts. If I've managed to catch your eye or inspire some ideas of your own, I'd suggest grabbing a kit for yourself. My Monthly Hero kits are always a great value, and once they're gone, they are gone. Please use my links in the description down below. If you do go shopping at Hero Arts, it helps support this channel and is always greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me here today. I am constantly humbled by your attention, and I will always do my best to keep bringing you some cheer and inspiration with every kit I receive. If you're not subscribed, please click that subscribe button up above and click the bell icon so you're notified whenever I post a new video. And please remember to like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Don't run with scissors. And I send you and yours health, happiness, cheer, goodwill, and as always, happy crafting. For more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.